Still with us here on Morning at NTV. That particular tip session on technology will be coming to you every Thursday, where we look at the dynamics of technology and how things are improving and ought to be rectified. So if you have any information and anything you would like to add on that, no doubt you can always be part of it every Thursday. Let me now return to the studio and begin with the Kickstarter discussion. And today we are looking at population dynamics and the interrelatedness, especially when it comes to shaping the development trajectory. This discussion comes on the backdrop of the fact that today the Uganda Bureau of Statistics is set to finally announce the substantive figures and statistics with regard to Uganda's population in light of the Uganda population and housing census that was held at the beginning of the year. But before I introduce my guests, let me just take you through what is our preamble. Debates on how population growth affects development and how development affects population growth have been a subject of intense debate and controversy since the late 18th century. But while these initially focused mainly on natural dynamics, the impact of migration on both population and development has increasingly become recognized. While world population will continue growing throughout the 21st century, there are substantial and growing contrasts between regions in the pace and nature of that growth, including countries where population is stagnating or even shrinking. Because of these contrasts and the nature of debate on the same, development itself is seen in different aspects. Today we have with us in studio Honorable Basil Bataringaya, the MP for Kashari North. He's also member of the Public Accounts Committee Central. We're also joined on site by Ben Kirere. He's a monitoring and evaluation specialist at the Education Advocacy Network. Gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Great. Let me begin with the legislator, nonetheless, because you sit on a committee that is largely responsible for the planning processes or part of the planning processes for the country. And population data and statistics is very much important when coming down to the nitty-gritty of understanding how resources will be allocated and how appropriations will be made, especially when it comes to the finance votes. Today is a significant day in the country's history. Of course, we'll be knowing exactly where we are in terms of numbers. First, what's your take on this development in light of the information that was released earlier but was not substantive?
Thank you very much. Allow me to complete the introduction. Introduction. So,
all right.
So Basil Bataringaya Rwankwene. Rwankwene. Yes, that is my father's name, so I don't drop it out of my names. So I am the Member of Parliament for Kashari North in Barara District. This is my first term.
Okay.
I sit on the Finance Committee.
Yeah.
And also the Public Accounts Committee, Central Government. But the other side, I also belong to the National Resistance Movement. Okay. It's an important factor because it is the one planning for this country as of now. And in the National Resistance Movement, I'm the regional whip for Ankole region. I'm also the chairperson of the Ankole Parliamentary Caucus.
Okay.
Yes, so. Now back to your question. Today is a very significant date in our country because the long-awaited results of the population census are officially being released following the interim results that were released earlier. The results put our population at about 46 million. Today we shall get the exact figure from the census. The significance of this is that we live in a country or in a world with finite resources. They are fixed. But the population keeps changing. Now, across the world, of course, the populations don't grow at the same rate or in the same direction. However, in Africa, and in particular and in Uganda, our rate of growth of our population is quite high. And it has become quite high for two major reasons. We have a very high fertility rate. I don't know how it is explained biologically, but Uganda has a very high fertility rate. But also the government I serve, the NRM government, has been consistent on making sure that those diseases that deplete the population at a youthful age, the young age, like especially the immunizable diseases, are checked. Therefore, almost every child that is born has an opportunity to grow. And this determines the high growth rate of the population. And therefore, if in the past we were planning and making assumptions that half of the children that will be born will die, or 1/3 or something, and now the issue is that almost all the children that are born will survive. And also you have a very high fertility rate. Almost when the rights go out, you know, sometimes we say the rural population, they are TV. The TV in the urban centers, we watch TV, watch football, but in the rural setting, except for the few changes that have come of recent, in the past, when darkness falls, people eat on the small katadoba, and then they go for the old people go to watch their TV as the children sleep, and the TV the old people watch results in other children. So that is the reason for the high population growth rate. So this is an important day, because if we have a population that is surviving at birth, plus the high fertility rate, it means our population is projected to grow and not stagnate like in some places. So if it is growing with finite resources, land is fixed, the natural resources below and above the earth are also finite, then what do we do? The forests, the water bodies are the same. So the resources they produce are the same. So if the land is not expanding and the population is expanding, how do you plan for it to make sure that there is sustainable use of this land and it takes charge of this growing population?
All right, thank you very much for what is no doubt a very good perspective and opening remarks that gives us an idea on exactly where we are as a country. Mr. Ben Kirere, a monitoring and evaluation specialist, I do believe that your eye is eagle-like when it comes to matters Uganda, and today being the day that Uganda Bureau of Statistics makes it official, we do know the substantive figure was put at 34.6 45 rather, but we do have the worldometer guys out there somewhere who sit and like the satellites do fashion out most of the dynamics and play with figures and analytics. For them, they think Uganda is at 50. Do we see a significant increase in that number from 45 to 50 today, or is it largely going to stay the same?
Thank you so much. My name is Chirere Ben. I'm an M&E specialist at Educational Advocacy Network, but also in terms of future plans, I'm an aspirant for LOC5 Kasese district in the near future.
Which district?
Kasese district.
Kasese.
Yes.
All right.
Chairperson LOC5. NRM ticket. Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
to NRM.
In terms of the population dynamics, we are glad that today we are having an official report in terms of the numbers. For us, M&E, we believe so much in the numbers. We are happy that the nation is aware of its people, its population, and therefore planning is not a gamble. I suppose that at this time, the data we have collected will be used for at different levels to make meaning in terms of development dynamics. The numbers as of now, the dynamics here in terms of the age regiments, you will realize that they give 18 years, 0 to 18 years is 50.5. This number here means to the development and the nation at large, in both the short and the long run, this is a burden. Already it's a burden to the country because we are having, most of these are children. They are in school. And so if they are in school, they depend so much on their parents and also on the country. So the country has a lot of costs involved because of the kind of population we have. The high burden in the short run as of now, of course, the UPE, the immunization, the health care, the street children, the child mothers, all these is out of the kind of population type we have here. But however, as a country, from the kind of years we have going forward, you realize that these are people who are going to join the labor force. These are the people that will work, but also they are the people that will provide the same market as well. The rest of the age regiments, including those above 60, those in the 30s, those in the 30s as of now are the people who are on the streets looking for jobs.
Yep.
These are the people who are roaming around, they are complaining, because I think at some point we did not provide the framework to deal with such a people. I suppose that 2014 population was able to provide us with a report. But to what extent did we use that data to be able to deal with the likely effects of the population? Our population structure has not changed much from 2014 to 2022, I mean 2024. Almost the characteristics of the population structure is the same. So if anything happened today, we are not caught up by surprise. We knew this was coming. Okay. And there's not much that has changed in terms of the structure of the population. So you realize that, for example, we have the legislator here, we have a member of parliament. It is key that uses this information to inform decision. It is unfortunate sometimes we collect a lot of data, but we don't use it. It keeps on the desks, or sometimes it remains at a much higher level. It doesn't trickle down to other sectors of the country, at district level, at village level. I would wish that even the chairman at this point should know how many people have, the age, the age regiments, and those other dynamics that are involved in this, so that it's not an issue that remains at national level.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Ben Kirere. And of course, you do bring into the aspect of the ability for decision makers at all levels to be abreast with information that is coming through. Of course, it does play well into the National Physical Development Plan that Uganda should be a planning area in its entirety. And of course, I do know that, for example, local governments do use this information as effectively or as readily as anyone other person away from the local government does.
So is it possible to supplement this before you...
No doubt you will. But I also want you to help us, take us through, or rather paint the picture for us, when it comes to the deliberations at committee level before the legislation goes into the plenary. The information available to legislators is immense, first as researched by Parliament, but also as obtained by your team, maybe, that conducts on-spot assessment and research in your constituencies. How often does the reality on the ground help inform decision making and shape the kind of legislation that you come up with. You can also submit on Mr. Kirere's perspective. Okay,
I will come back to the issue of how the legislation is shaped by the findings of the population. But first of all, the demographics, as Mr. Chirere has put it, have a lot to say. 50.5% of the population is 0 to 18 years.
18 years.
Officially, this is a non-working population. Officially.
Non-productive, yeah.
Officially.
Officially, yeah.
I mark my word, officially. However, this population, the bulk of it, is rural population.
Yeah.
And when we talk about rural population, there is a good, the age bracket that we take as officially unemployable, but are employable. The people between about 12 years to 18 years.
Unemployable, but
yes.
Employed?
But yes, they get employed.
Officially unemployable, but employable.
You know, we live on rules that have been set internationally, and for example, when you employ somebody of 16, you are employing somebody of underage.
Underage,
but in Africa, 12 years to 18 years are employable, and me, I stress it. Why? It is at this age that you are teaching a person how to dig. It is at this time we are teaching how to milk. Whatever activity we do in the rural setting, how to mingle millet, how to grind millet, how to weed a banana plantation, how to pick coffee, name them. It is at this age that the population...
Maybe that yes. We shall discuss that later. As
no, I had a point for it.
Skills.
Yes.
Not necessarily labor.
No, they are not best. Yes, but as you are doing basic life skills, you are laboring and productive. Okay. And this is the point I want to stress on planning. So, if this labor is very active, existent, but we take it as an official non-labor. And if we take it as an officially as non-labor, it means we may not plan for it. So my point is that we must plan for these people, and therefore take resources. If in NRM we have taken money, PDM as a government, to the people, but this money could be increased so that everybody in the family is actively accessing this money and using it to be productive supervised by the old people. Now, the other, so we need to plan for this officially non-working population. Two, the 18 to 30. This is the population that is at school and has just left school. The youth, very active, very able-bodied, and ready to work. However, this is the population that where unemployment falls. So, and they are almost 23%.
23%.
So 23% of people who are very active, and yet that's where unemployment falls. If you do not plan for them, then you don't have a plan for a country. Therefore, we must focus some resources in making sure that each and every person in this age bracket is actively working. Now, back to how the demographics help in this planning. So, I think if I remember the question very well.
And the reason I ask that question is to help us debunk what riled the president some time ago, where he said that some legislators, for example, are prone to apportioning, for example, votes or finances to areas that are not prioritized by government, but have done so on account of the realities in their own constituencies, and to bring it to light and give an example is if Zombo, for example, is grappling with a particular lack of public services,
yes,
but the MP responsible for making the decision for the vote to go to Zombo to solve that particular issue, yes, is an MP, say, of Butaleja, yes, and makes the decision in the interest of Butaleja, thus rather changing the vote. Instead of the money going to Zombo, the money goes to another place, and that affects the planning process or the ability of that particular region or part of the country to benefit.
Yeah, that's correct. The president is right to be riled by that. However, the planning process is not a one-day process. And it is multi-sectoral. It is multi-sectoral. It is across all the three arms of government. So with the executive, through the Central Executive Committee and the executive itself, the Central Executive Committee of the ruling party, and then the executive, the cabinet ministers and so on, playing a very central role in the planning and budgeting process. So remember, the annual budgets that we make, and because those are the ones that rile the president, the annual budgets that we make, the parliament plays a crucial role in them. However, they are based on longer term plans. So, for example, now the NDP3, the Vision 2040, the Vision 2063 for Africa, how do we get out of poverty by 2030? All those are already long-term plans, and they are written down. So you will find that in Butareja, if we use the example you have used, there is a service that is needed there, and it is in the development plan. Now, unfortunately, all human beings are selfish. That is the basic. So, when a legislator is in parliament, his first interest is
his constituency.
His constituency. During my campaigns, I used to give my electorate example. You have spent 3 days without eating, even during COVID, for example. Now they have brought this Rusania on which they power Katogo for all of you. And then you have spent 3 days without eating. The water is the other side to wash your hands. Now, when they say eat, I hardly think that people will go for the water.
To wash?
They will first finish the problem of the hunger before they go for, they think about the water. Because by the time you come from the water, members have finished the Katogo. It is very hot, and you must also eat. So the problem is finite resources or scarce resources against enormous needs. So this is where selfishness comes in. However, selfishness is regulated by the laws. So the president, for example, as the supreme supervisor, is correct to step in and say, no, what you are doing is wrong, let's go by this. And I totally support him. But the legislator will not be making a mistake because he's moving by the already plan in place. The manifesto, the national development plan, and so on. So the question is, how do we, in totality, all of us that are involved in the planning process, bring our ideas together to make sure that we rhyme and we are in tandem on how these resources are very well planned for and service the nation in total.
As an monitoring and evaluation expert, Mr. Chirere,
yes, please.
I am sure that Uganda has the capacity to use the available finite resources sufficiently well to allow for the kind of interventions that spur growth and development within the population. Of course, the challenges of corruption are long-standing. We know them. The challenges of allocation on account of selfishness, as the legislator says, are perfectly understandable. But we keep going from national development plan to national development plan, and pretty much there is an overlap or a carry forward on the issues that have not been sufficiently dealt with in the previous plan, and then instead of working on new arrangements within a new plan, we carry forward the ones that failed or were done totally in a wrong way into the new whole arrangement. And that seems to take us 2 steps forward and others backwards. What is the solution? Is there any blueprint that can be adopted right now in as far as national planning is concerned in order to avoid these pitfalls?
Yeah, it's true that the government has enough resources as Uganda. The unfortunate part of it is the element of selfishness, like he mentioned. Sometimes politically, people make commitments that don't seem to rhyme with the national development plan. At national level, district level, at almost all levels. And yet it's from the national development plan that we generate the national budgets. And then from the national budgets, we get the fund that we take at district level for implementation of different programs. But I can imagine that a given politician has made commitments in his so-called manifesto and has promised people maybe roads and bridges and blah, blah, you know them. But the unfortunate part may be at some point, they are not catered for in the national development plan. So because of influence, he will want the road made because he must please his voters. And so where do you secure another term. So where do you get the money? Meaning that you will either force and have certain monies released to meet that interest. So in the long run, certain things are made outside the national development plan. And then the year ends. So when this year ends without implementing the actual plan, you have gone outside the plan, then you will have, of course, backlogs. And the next development plan, the same things will be repetitive. So we need to align the politics and the development framework that is guiding the nation. If we separate the two, our commitments are different, national development plan is different, then we shall always have similar challenges. If you look at the scenario that the Honorable provided here, the man is meant for Kashari. I mean, the legislator from Kashari is sitting on finance. They make a decision of a certain issue, maybe which is in Zombo.
Kasese.
Or maybe Kasese. And because he has influence at the table, he will want it in his Kashari. And my people in Kasese will lose it out because he's next to the decision-making table. So you find you are in circles. So somehow we need to streamline some of the ways we do things in national interest and to avoid personal level benefits. We should begin to look at people, a population, not in terms of votes, but as a people, as human beings. The human-based approach, I think, should be in play, so that I don't take a given facility to my constituency because of votes, but because the human beings, there is a need for it the other side. So situations where we think to please those who voted better than the other people that voted badly, it is depicting, it is giving an impression that you are serving the votes as opposed to serving the people. So we need to separate these two things, especially if you have already secured the term. The preoccupation of the next term as opposed to the next generation is why we're having a problem. So people become pleasers because they are securing a next term. The next generation aspects are not in play, and that's why we're having such a problems as of now. That the population structure as you see it now is suggesting that the 23% of the people on the street, those people who are ranking on the street, 23%, that's a very big number. And they are within the productive age between 18 and 30. these numbers have not just come. We are aware they were there because the population structure 2014 gave us this
pretty
kind
much
of
over that very same trajectory.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Allow me not dwell so much on the lamentation. Often, when discussions like these do hit the table, there is a tendency for many of us to well, train our guns and our attention on what is not working and why it's not working. But let's attempt to identify that which should work, especially with regard to Uganda's situation right now. That means looking at the opportunities that lie within the ability to know the demographics that are being provided in terms of the statistics about the population. Ugandans, what areas of productivity can best be used in order to improve, for example, GDP, so that we understand that in the alignment of national priorities, we know which section of the population needs what, and maybe as industrialization is taking root across the country, it's seen by the establishment of industrial parks, we know which industrial park to go to which region and why, and then maybe it could be a solution to the migration that is occasioned upon the urban centers, as many youth who are within the employable bracket come to ensure that they get the kind of means to improve their livelihood. Honorable Bataringaya, yes, that is a question that you should be able to help us, and of course the policymakers out there who are watching also take notes in order to define the next steps forward.
Thank you very much. The opportunities that come with the population, as I have already alluded to some of it, the population of 12 to 18 years, I told you, is fairly active, rural, and therefore must be utilized. It is officially unemployable. However, they have a lot of energy in them. They can be used, given, because you cannot take them to work in a factory. That would be wrong. But in the rural setting where you are giving them life skills, this is an opportunity to utilize their labor. For example, I used to dig, I used to milk, I used to do what? At this age, I am very sure I contributed a good portion. So if you have 6 children between 12 and 18 years old, and you have resources for them to use to be productive, then your growth, the income of the family will grow. But if you keep them out of labor like I call it, the Europeans want it, that they are not employable, then you will have only the father and mother working to support this big population. And therefore, that is, to me, that is wrong. The ones between 18 and 30 years, as I had earlier said, are the very, very, very active. And therefore, we must have resources focused on this. I sit on the Parliamentary Forum on Youth Affairs, and I'm the youth representative for Western Uganda.
Wait a minute.
Yes. They vote, yes, yes, there are youthful MPs from Western Uganda, many. But the youth MPs and the people who are that, because I'm a very firm advocate for youth, they chose me to be a youth representative for Western Uganda. And here again I stress it. This youthful population, we must, as legislators, force resources into them. They must work. If those industrial parks that you are talking about, how do we take these people into those industrial parks? How do we motivate them? How do we provide them that venture capital to start? Because they don't have where to start from. So it is us, government, that must give them money to start off. They are very innovative. They are very creative.
In other words, there shouldn't be the expectation that because of their creativity, because of their energy, and
once he walks out of the university, my area is ICT. The money for ICT is here. Go here. My money is into manufacturing. Go here. My mind is set on sports. Go here. Whatever venture. But money must be forced to make sure that these youth have resources to utilize and their energy is not wasted.
Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll ask Ben Kirere to basically wrap this conversation up because the time is not of this ally right now.
I think, given the population structure here, we need to have a deliberate plan and design the interventions that will see these young people helped. Because a baby today is in the labor force in the next 18 years. So if these people grow without a deliberate effort or a framework to have them into the labor force, it will be disaster. Because it means the crime rate will increase. The riots, you have heard of what happened recently in Kenya. The immigrants, those people who will go to the rest of the world looking for what to do because we are not prepared to have to absorb these young people who are about to come. I propose around 3 to 4 things.
Very quickly.
The first one, let us capitalize the Ghana Development Bank. This will finance big projects like railways, like dams, like infrastructure, so that will accommodate these people when they grow old. The second thing, we need to reduce the cost of doing business because the burden on the parents today and the government is very high. So if we reduce this through maybe the economic integration so that we can attract very many other people to come and work here, I think will help us to absorb these people when they grow. And then we need to reconsider the education system. Remember, the 23%, the 18 to 30 years, these are people who are products of an education system that makes them redundant after school. Because if you do CRE, what do you become at the end of the day? What do you do? You are not producing at all. So I'm thinking, as fast as possible, we need to reconsider our education system and try to consider vocationalization and technologization, so that you have the brain at hand, you have the brain at work and then the hands. So that when these people come out, instead of looking for jobs, they should look for work. There's a difference between work and jobs. Okay. I think this will help us to accommodate this big population. Without that, it is impending disaster.
All right. Ben Kirere, many thanks for that submission. Honorable Bataringaya, time is not our very best ally, but these conversations cannot be exhausted as they ought to be in a single sitting, for example, at Morning at NTV. It's been a pleasure having your company. Many thanks for making time. And of course, we look forward to the announcement that will be made by the Uganda Bureau of Statistics later today with regard to the substantive numbers, figures, as well as statistics on Uganda's population. When we return, we shall be talking regenerative agriculture as the country grapples with the spectre of climate change. It's also part of the planning process to understand that climate change must be navigated around. Maybe with the discussion that's coming up will offer some light on that. Stay with us.